Good morning, everyone. RabbiYoniKatz here. I just saw this class that was recently uploaded to YouTube by Rabbi Jacobson entitled, Can God Create a Rock That He Cannot Pick Up? And it goes through some very deep concepts in Chassidus, many relating to the topic which we're constantly talking about. But towards the end of the lecture, he sort of delves into what was the revolution of the Bal Shem Tov, and as that relates to God's etzem, God's essence. So I think it's important for everyone to listen to, and I'll just make a few comments along the way. Enjoy. Again, if you have any questions, emails, or comments, please send them to RabbiYoniKatz@gmail.com.
Let's go back to the beginning of Gili Chassidus, the Bal Shem Tov. What was the main chiddush, one of the main chiddushim of the Bal Shem Tov? There was Torah, there was Aveda, there were Talmidei Chachamim. There was a tremendous amount of Torah and Yira by Eden before the Bal Shem Tov. So what did the Bal Shem Tov come to Mechadish exactly? He wasn't Mechadish, a new Chiddush and Nigla, or a new halacha, a new explanation of halacha. He came to Megala, what we call the etzem, right? The etzem in Torah, and the etzem in the neshama.
So he came to be Megala, the etzem of the neshama, of a Jew's soul, the etzem of Torah. And I imagine by that he means who's the etzem of Torah? That's God. So he basically came to reveal the essence of everything. God, Torah, and the Jew.
Being that the world, and Eden especially, were in a state of Isalfus, to the language from Chassidus, were like Beruchnius, either due to the Shibud Golius, the difficult oppressions and afflictions in Golos. So the Ruach of Eden was very down. In addition, it was creating splits. Like we know the split between Talmidei Chachamim and Oshim Pshutim, scholars, simple people. When the Bal Shem Tov came, and that's why he was called Yisrael, Chassidus explains in different sikhs and so on, that when someone is bisalfus, someone is like in a faint state, in a coma, you call them by their name. The name touches the etzem and it awakens them. And therefore, the Bal Shem Tov came to touch etzem and neshama. And that's why the Bal Shem Tov was involved, especially in his early years, Anoshim Pshutim, with children. He was a bagleted, like an equivalent of a bus driver today. He didn't even teach children. He walked them to school, to walk them to learn. And would say that, ask them how they are, Baruch Hashem, make brachas for them. Simple things to be megala, the etzem and neshama, and show that every Id, even an Ish Poshet, is connected to the Eibishter, not just a Talmid Chacham, not just someone who's on a Bal Madrega. So we talk about the Gilui HaEtzem. Gilui HaEtzem we know is higher than Giluyim. Giluyim is based on a person's level of like the difference between Simchas Torah and the rest of the year. Simchas Torah we all dance equally with a favikulta, a wrapped up Sefer Torah. Why? Because it's not about learning. If you're talking about a regular day in the year, of course a Talmid Chacham is on a higher level than a person who doesn't know how to learn, or Lo Yada Maika Amar, or people on lower levels. There's chilukim, and that's part of Torah too. There should be chilukim. There are teachers, there are students. There's a Moshe Rabbeinu, not like Kairach said, Kol Eidik Deishim. It's true, Kol Eidik Deishim, but there's also a hierarchy. But Simchas Torah is Gilui Etzem. And Gilui Etzem, everybody dances because the Sefer Torah, we're talking now, not the Seichel of Torah, the Etzem of Torah.
So I think it's important to interject here, because what does that mean? He came to Megala the Etzem. So literally translated, that means he came to reveal the essence, right? Meaning the truest, deepest point or part of it all. So if you go to somebody's essence and you go beyond all the external sort of trappings, what does that mean? You know, it could be just a bunch of words, Megal the Etzem, and we use, especially in Chassidus, constantly when you're learning it, you're constantly saying words and that you don't really necessarily understand the depth or the magnitude or even superficially what it's saying. Like you'll constantly hear about Ara and Soif, infinite cosmic light. What does that even mean? So what does it mean that you're revealing somebody's essence? Revealing somebody's essence means that if you get to the deepest part, and in this case, like he's talking about a Jew, the deepest part of every Jew means it's not about me. On a superficial external level, it could be like, you know, this is about me, how much I learn, how much Torah I know. But if you want to get beyond all that, you want to get to the deepest part of me, it's not about me, it's about God. That's what we call Yechidah. So that's why Simchas Torah represents it so beautifully. And that's, as he's saying, the Sefer Torah is wrapped in the cover, and it's not about learning, because in learning, you're already getting to who's smarter than who knows more than who. It's about the person. It's about the person who is learning. On Simchas Torah, it's about God. It's not about how much you know. It's about, this is God's Torah, and that's what we're dancing. We're dancing with our feet, not with our head, obviously. We're celebrating. Basically, it's not about us. It's not about me. It's God. And also the Bal Shem Tov came along, and his name was Yisrael, which is the name Israel, which represents at the deepest core, the essence of every Jew. All they really care about is God, not about themselves. And that's what it means to reveal a person's essence. And obviously, it's only in a time of crisis or when your back's against the wall that that comes out.
The Bal Shem Tov was Megala that etzem. Now, if it stopped right there, with the Bal Shem Tov and then the Magid, you could say, okay, and as actually the critics, the Misnagdim, that's what they criticized of Chassidus. They were saying Chassidus is focusing on Chitzenius. What they called Etzem is Chitzenius, meaning not about learning Torah, not about Ava V'yira. They criticized Chassidim with dancing, behaving in wild ways. Comes the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe, Chassidus Chabad, is malbish this whole etzem of the Bal Shem Tov into Chabad, into Seichel, which was actually some of the Talmidei Hamagid criticized the Alter Rebbe for that. They said it's not the derech Bal Shem Tov.
And he clearly, for all those people who challenge me and say, etzem, you can't talk about it, it's not, we can never know, and this and that. And of course, there's elements to that, but here he's clearly saying that the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, came to be malbish, this nekuda that the Bal Shem Tov wanted to be megala the etzem in seichel, meaning throughout history, to get to understand or to get closer to God's essence is the roadmap, is sort of the purpose of it all. So we have to be careful to say etzem. We can only understand what we can understand.
That's when we say he Teres Bal Shem Tov, or Ata Yismach Yisrael and Agdomet Tanya. Why? Because it was time to emphasize that this is Dafka Teres Bal Shem Tov. But Bechitzenius, you could argue, the Bal Shem Tov was teaching much more Hislavus, Hispilus, Etzem, Pshittus. And here the Alter Rebbe is turning it into a whole doctrine called Chassidus Chabad. A whole doctrine with Api Seichel, and I say, there's Talshus. I mean, you start learning Tanya, and you learn Teireh, Likut Teireh. So some felt, actually the Kalisker said, that it's like, or maybe the Baruch Mezhebush, I mean, the few that were menaged to it, he said that the Alter Rebbe is giving people the gun with all the ammunition and the powder. This is brought in Beis Rebbe, but it's missing the spark. So imagine having the whole, all the ingredients, but you don't have the cake. He was saying the Bal Shem Tov was teaching the spark, the nitzutz, the slavos, the chayas, the simcha. And the Alter Rebbe is being malbish all in the seichel, so it's taking away from that spark. Obviously, they were wrong, and that's what Levi Yitzchak Braditchever and the Alter Rebbe finally wrote back to Avram Kalisker, and he wrote to him that this is beferish they were mekabel from the Magid, wasn't a chidush. What was the Alter Rebbe doing? The Alter Rebbe wasn't chas v'shalom going away from the etzem of the Bal Shem Tov. He was taking the etzem and revealing it b'his galus in Chabad and in Midas. That a person has to, because the Bal Shem Tov wasn't coming to say that no, let's stop learning chas v'shalom, let's stop davening, and let's stop having ava v'yira. He was saying, let's remember, it all has to be driven by the etzem, and the etzem has to come into the keiches hanefesh, and that's what the Alter Rebbe did.
So it's important to note. So they were saying the Bal Shem Tov had his slavas, the fiery passion, and then the Alter Rebbe seemed to make it very mechanical, very broken down. And then when you do that, obviously you could lose the big picture. So it seems now that we sort of have to work backwards. So we have all the sichas and the maimarim and the jargon of Chassidus, but you could lose the big picture of what the Bal Shem Tov said initially when he wanted to be megala the etzem of Rachmana liba boy, that God needs your heart. So we have to take all these terms and all these maimarim and all this language that we have and not lose the bigger picture. So this idea that God needs us is obviously etzem, and we have to sort of understand it as it's explained in the deeper language and technicality of it all. Therefore, very often when I explain the idea or have the question, pose, does God need us, as someone who's very learning Chassidus, initially they're very resistant to it and they challenge it, just as Baruch Mezhebush and others challenge the Alter Rebbe. But once they start getting it, it's like, they're bitten by the bug. It's in their head and they can't deny it, because everywhere they look now, every maimer, every sicha, atavichartanu, and mitzvahs are negein atzmus, mitzvahs are mechsiachis to the atzmus. Everywhere they look, it's undeniable how important, how necessary, how relevant our avodah, our mitzvahs, how we are to God. And therefore they can't shake it, because they sort of been woken up to the bigger picture, which, it was always been there. And maybe even subconsciously, I imagine it was there, but now it's like a key, a maftech. They can see everything that they're learning in the deepest, most atzmistic way.
The generations of afterwards continue doing that. So it was a combination of etzem and giluyim. Comes the Rebbe, and one of the chidushim of the Rebbe in Vayigash, Chelik Hey, Kutei Sichos, where the Rebbe says about Yofer Sha'achas B'tshuva Ma'asim Tevim Be'elam Hazeh Mikol Chai Elam Haba. And then it says Yofer Sha'achas Shel Kedas Ruach Be'elam Haba Mikol Chai Elam Hazeh. So the Rebbe Marash explains how does.
So the question is, on one hand it says Yofer Sha'achas B'tshuva Ma'asim Tevim Be'elam Hazeh Mikol Chai Elam Haba. That 1 hour of doing mitzvahs and Torah in this world is better than the whole world to come. And the other hand, we find that it says, no, the whole Olam Haba is much better. So which one is it? They seem to contradict each other.
How do you reconcile that? If you talk...
Boom. Listen to what he says. And I love this part, and he really hammers the point home here.
But the Nachas Ruach of the Beira, it's Be'elam Hazeh, Tshuva Ma'asim Tevim in this world. Nachas Ruach of the Nivra is much more pleasure in Elam Haba. So the Rebbe asks a very difficult question. If that's the case, Mashiach and Geula is simply a tzukike. It's like throwing us a candy. Nachas Ruach Beira is much more in Golas, much more in the Hell and the Hester when we have Mesidus Nefesh. Mashiach is for us good, because that's when it'll be Begili. The Rebbe's answer, which is also an unbelievable chiddush, is that no, the etzem has to be begili. And the etzem is not begili, so called the etzem is not, shleimus etzem is atzmus, is to also be begili. So
the etzem has to be begili. Listen to his words, Rabbi Simon Jacobson's words, not my words, not Rabbi Manis Friedman's words. The etzem has to be good, has to be begili, has to be b'shleimus. Also
for the Eibishter's negeya geula mitis v'shlema. Okay.
It's also negay to Hashem that if Mashiach comes and there's Gula Mitzvah Hashem. I mean, obviously it's the culmination of the purpose of creation. But from God's essence, he has to be Begilui, meaning it's not enough just to be Etzem, in potential or not revealed. And there's showing that there's something that has to be. And obviously that's a whole nother clip, and we can offer so many more insights and explanations into that.
So now comes, and this is the chiddush here, the
Okay, so we'll end there, and I think this clip is very telling. And this is not kaviyachol, as if God has to. It's not really on a deeper level. No, the whole point of the Bal Shem Tov came along was to tell everyone, the whole world, how essential what we're doing here is. And that's when the Bal Shem Tov went up to the chamber of Mashiach and he said, Emasai Kasimar. Mashiach didn't tell the Mashiach, when everyone's from and doing mitzvahs. Seemingly that's what would bring Mashiach. One more good deed of goodness and kindness and Yir Shamayim. No, he said, when your wellspring spread, when the whole world realizes how essential, how personal, how important, how impactful it is to me, every mitzvah, every Jew, then that's going to usher in the coming of Mashiach. When God says, my essence can be at home, can be revealed in this world, that's what it's all about. So this idea is obviously elementary. Hope everyone enjoyed this little clip. So much more to talk about. And again, please email me if you have any things to share with me. Have a good Shabbos.